All right, so we are going to go over some things you're going to need to know for this lesson. The first one is rounding, okay? Remember, if it's 5 or more, you're always going to round up. So people have always heard 5 or higher, climb the vine, okay? 4 or lower, you're going to stay the same, okay? So people have sometimes said 4 or lower, stay to the floor. Okay, so you just have to really remember those two numbers. 5 or more, you're going to round up. 4 or lower, you are going to stay the same. Okay, and I put this here. Always look at the digit to the right of the number you're rounding. So let me give you an example. If I have this number, 3,274, and I am going to round to the nearest 100. Okay, I want to round to the nearest 100. So if I put it in a place value chart, ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, I know that this is the number that I am rounding. If I am looking at the digit to the right of it, that's a 7. Okay, that's a 7. This 7 is 5 or higher. Okay, it's greater than a 5. Well, I should say it's greater than a 4. It's 5 or higher. So this 7 is actually going to tell that 2 to go up. So that 2 is going to turn into a 3. Okay? Everything before it stays the same, and everything after it turns into zeros. So when I rounded that 3,274 actually became 3,300. Okay, let's look at another one. I could have this number, 5,436, and I'm going to round again to the nearest 100. Well, when I put it in a place value chart, ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, this is the digit that I am rounding, okay, the 4, the hundreds. This is the digit I have to look at. That digit is a 4 or lower. So it's not going to turn that into a 5. It's not big enough. So it's going to keep that 4 the same. That 3 is going to keep that 4 the same. So that stays the same. Everything else above it stays the same. And everything else after turns into zeros. So 5,436 actually is rounded to 5,400. Okay, so it's really important that you look to the digit of the right, look to the digit to the right of the number that you're rounding. This 7 is 5 or more, so it turned that 2 into a 3. This 4 is 4 or lower, so this 3 is it's 4 or lower, so that means that it did not turn that 4 into a 5. It stayed the same. Okay, really important when you're rounding, okay? All right, let's move on. Keywords. You're going to see a lot of word problems in your practice quiz that are going to say things like, how many more? How much more? How much further? How much longer? Whenever you see this, how many more, how much further, how much longer, that is always subtraction. Okay, so please remember that. Another word that goes with subtraction is difference. If you are finding the difference between two numbers, you are subtracting. Okay, these right here are really big to remember that that's subtraction. How many more, how much more, anything like that means subtraction. Now on the flip side of that, if you see something like sum or total or maybe all together or in all, that's going to mean addition, okay? So please make sure we're paying attention to our key words. This is the big one to remember for this practice. And the last part, estimation with rounding, okay? So you may get some type of problem that says there are 2,347 fish in Lake Norman. There are 5,793 fish in Lake Wylie. How many more fish are in Lake Wylie? Okay. Use estimation by rounding to the nearest 100. Okay, so a few things in here. I know that in Lake Norman, there are 2,347 fish. And I know in Lake Wylie, there are 5,793 fish. I needed to figure out how many more fish were in Lake Wylie than Lake Norman. Well, just like we talked about before, how many more? Always, always, always means subtraction. Okay? But it doesn't want me to just subtract these two numbers. I have to round them to the nearest 100 first. Okay? If I am rounding them to the nearest 100, these digits are in my hundreds place value. I have to look to the digit of the right of it. Does that 4 tell that 3 to go up or to stay the same? That's right, it tells it to stay the same because it's not a 5 or higher. So if I round that to the nearest 100, I'm actually going to get 2,300 because that 4 did not make that 3 go up. Well, if I look down here, I have a 9. That 9 is a 5 or higher. So that 9 is going to change that 7 into an 8. So really, I'm going to get 5,800. Okay? But I'm not done yet because I needed to know how many more fish there were in Lake Wylie than Lake Norman. And in order to figure that out, now I have to subtract 5,800 minus 2,300. 0 minus 0 is 0. 0 minus 0 is 0. 8 minus 3 is 5. 5 minus 2 is 3. So there are about 3,500 more fish in Lake Wylie than there are in Lake Norman. Okay? So in order to do this, you had to figure out the keywords, you had to use rounding for estimation, then you had to subtract. But the important thing to remember is how we round. 5 or more, it goes up. 4 or lower, it stays the same.